Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're wrapping up our quarterback ranks, going 17 through 32, and getting some players that maybe you get as your second quarterback, or this might just be more relevant if you're in a super flex or a 2 QB league. Then these guys become relevant because we've done a few super flex type leagues recently. We did Scott Fishbowl, obviously, with super flex. I enjoy super flex. It really changes up drafts and where people get drafted. So I always some of these players on today's list actually can be relevant in some leagues. So, and there is some interesting names on this. So we will go through all of that. Before we do that, make sure you guys go check us out on Twitter at the FF Prophet or Instagram, Fantasy Football Prophet. Follow us there. Go look for some more information on the relegation leagues if you haven't already. We have a few spots available, so go check it out. We'll have some more information on Instagram for that. And we're going to jump right into this thing. So we went 1 through 16 the other day. If you have not listened to that yet, go check it out. Go, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you want to go, check out our 1 through 16. We're going to start today at 17, and that's going to be Jared Goff as our 17th consensus ranked quarterback. He was 16 for me. He was 18 for you, Jeff. And Goff, he had a poor year last year, right? After he got the big contract, the Rams have to be sort of, slightly regretting that, right? In a way. I guess you have to pay your young quarterbacks if they show any sign of being good. But it wasn't even the yard. The yardage was still there.
Yeah, the yards were great.
It was the touchdowns. The touchdowns were down. The interceptions were up. It wasn't as efficient. He wasn't as good. He still threw for, 40? He's thrown 4,600 yards each of the last 2 seasons. And, maybe that was just a 1-year fall off, right? They were really good the 2 years before that. The offensive line wasn't any good. That's, I think, a lot to do with it. They had to throw the ball a lot, too, last year. And it just, I don't know, the touchdowns weren't there. It was just, I don't know what happened on the Rams last year. And it's possible, though, if that was just a 1-year fluke, that he jumps back up and becomes what we thought maybe he could have been before, which, he was, actually, no, he wasn't even that. Okay, he finished, 13th last year? Yeah. It wasn't terrible. He was 7th the year before, though, so we just expected more things. So this isn't a terrible pick. Goff is, I feel like, this isn't a bad player to get as a second quarterback at the end of a draft, and just maybe he gets a little better. It's he has good receivers. He has Kupp, and he has Woods, and he has Higbee, and Gerald Everett's pretty solid. He has guys to throw the ball to. So Goff's an interesting one to me. I just don't know what last year was, and we're not going to know till the year starts. But I feel if I had to pick a side, is he last year's Jared Goff or is he the year before? I would lean more towards the year before, and that McVay can also figure this thing out a little more. I believe in McVay as an offensive coach and can figure it out.
I do like McVay. I would lean, first of all, 7 to 13, right? You're not talking a huge difference, crazy. But I do think closer to last year's numbers. Did they solve their O-line problem?
Don't know.
We don't know.
No one knows.
Maybe.
No one has any clue what they're watching with offensive line.
No, definitely. And especially now with LA, you watched them last year and they were, all over the place. And you did lose, a good wide receiver, but it does seem like they have plenty of talent to make up for that. They obviously, Cooks was on the team. He is no longer. He is in Houston. But obviously I do like Higbee, showed quite a bit. Gerald Everett, if they can really get him involved, they can run those, 2 tight end sets. Great. And the other question I do have that could help Jared Goff was the fact that Todd Gurley moving on, even though I think there will be a worse overall offense, maybe he will have to throw more touchdowns in order to make that up, because Todd Gurley is wonderful in the red zone, but that also means that, 2 years in a row, I think he scored 17 rushing and then 12 rushing. That doesn't go into Jared Goff's, TD column. So that might help him bounce back a little bit, even though I don't think overall, I think obviously losing Todd Gurley hurts them more. But for him, maybe, addition by subtraction kind of deal. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just not overly confident with him, and that's why I rank him lower, because I also don't see, I guess, what is the positives? Besides for the one I said right there, what would the positives be? I do like McVay. I like what you were saying.
I think,
but in my mind, I don't know how that equates to more fantasy points.
A lot of this is just belief in McVay as a coach that he can figure this out for them, and
he is good.
And Goff will be able to turn it around. But then again, I like it in the fact that, again, value is everything for me. And there's no risk to draft Jared Goff because he's going to be your last quarterback. I mean, 2 QBs, different story. But in a standard league, he's going to be at the very end of the draft. If he's drafted at all, there's no risk. There's just no risk. Or he's probably going to be on the waiver wire in a lot of leagues. In 10-team leagues, he's going to be sitting on the waivers, most likely. So just wait and see what he could be. I mean, I think he can do something.
Okay, and I'll one more point that I do, maybe this one leads a little more into your camp.
Yep.
But last year, his attempts reached an all-time high.
Yeah, over 600, 620.
Yeah, 626. So that is a lot. And then on top of that, you take away Gurley. Maybe Cam Akers really is the real deal or something. I don't know. But if his attempts stay up that high and he is able to, his yardage will be good. No, I mean, good enough to buoy him. And if he has a few more touchdowns, all of a sudden we're saying, okay, he's possible top 10 guy.
Yep. Yeah, and top 10 is not out of the question because, I mean, even at a rank of 17, he's never finished that low. So
I think
3 years.
It does come to show how we've been a little bit spoiled the last couple of years. All of a sudden we got Mahomes and Lamar where they're like completely game changers where you're actually thinking about drafting quarterback high again. It does kind of push guys like this who we used to be like, oh, he's a steal, outside the top 10, and all of a sudden he doesn't look quite as good.
We are actually slightly higher on Goff. Very slightly.
Really?
But I'm 3 spots. He's consensus 19 and ADP 19. So you're 1 spot up you're 1 spot ahead and I'm 2 spots or 3 spots ahead. So, somehow we're slightly higher on Jared Goff, surprisingly.
Getting no love.
So 18th for us is Ben Roethlisberger. 18 for me, 17 for you. Consensus, he's 15 and ADP is 15. So we're a little lower on Ben, but I'm not saying I don't believe in Ben. He's a 38-year-old quarterback, right? Coming off, an injury that took him out for the entire year. And Ben he's had some really good fantasy seasons, but for the most part, the majority of his career, he's found himself between like 10 and 20, right? That's the majority of his career. And his last great season was just 2 years ago. He was really good in his last full season. He was really good. He was the 3rd best quarterback. He doesn't have Antonio Brown, though, anymore. That's the difference.
Yeah, big butt on that one.
And he does not have Antonio Brown. In the years before that, he was 10th and 13th, but that was with Brown and Le'Veon Bell. He doesn't have that. And we're still not convinced. I'm not 100% convinced that Juju Smith-Schuster can be the number one 100%. I believe in Juju, but I'm not convinced in it. You know what I mean? It's like this weird thing where I do think he's, again, if I had to pick, I think he's more likely to be a really good receiver. And last year was because he didn't have Ben.
But or a second QB.
He has to show me that yet.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that one. I like Juju, but I get where you'd be paranoid about that. But especially Ben, we don't know if Ben is going to be Ben, right?
No, and even to finish 3rd 2 seasons ago, he had to throw the ball 675 times. That is a lot of passes.
Yeah, for a guy that just had surgery.
Can he do that again? I mean, he had never come close to that many attempts before. He had 608 in 2014, but nothing that close. I'm not convinced. It's just there's too much risk for me to bank on Ben as obviously be a starter for me. Yeah, he could be good. I'm just, you know what? I'd rather have him show me that on somebody else's team, and I don't know what the real upside is if he really has a true upside because it's Juju. I guess a lot of it depends on how you feel about Deontay Johnson and James Washington. Some people are higher on Deontay Johnson. I don't know what they can do. And then they got Ebron, which people know what I feel about Ebron. He's garbage.
So harsh.
He's garbage. Hopefully he doesn't message me again like he did on Instagram a couple years ago.
Or as I like to call it, Hawkinson 1.0.
I mean,
darn you, Detroit.
I was down on him, and he came back at me on Instagram and.
Actually, it's wonderful.
You suck, Ebron.
You suck. You're way too hard.
You still suck. This is a quarterback episode. Let's not talk about Ebron. But, yeah. I'm just not there on Roethlisberger. I mean, I'm not going to doubt that he could be good, but 30-year-old quarterback coming off, what was the injury? Elbow injury? I can't remember what exact elbow, right? That's not good.
No, so obviously not.
But either way.
For a guy that throws for a living.
I'm not positive. I'm not a James Conner guy either. Like, I'm just not. I'm nothing. The weapons I'm not in love with them.
Here, and this is a weird one too. I think, well, first of all, Roethlisberger has always been a very volatile QB, right? He put up big numbers from, every other game and stuff like that. If the joke used to be if he's playing at home, he's about to wreck you.
Right.
If he's playing away, he's you sit him. And if he's that guy, then he could have some upside as far as streaming quarterback. I do like Juju. Deontay Johnson is interesting. I'm not as high as a lot of people. I think we don't really know what he is yet. But if I look at that team and I'm kind of like, okay, well, what does Roethlisberger really have to do in order to win? And that is what they're going to ask him to do, right? Well, that defense was unfrickin' believable last year, and they
should be again. They should be.
Yeah,
really good.
they were a playoff caliber team, and they were starting their third string quarterback.
Duck
they lost
Hodges.
Juju. I mean, they lost Connor. I mean, they were running on fumes for offense. Like it was just taped together. So if he gets back and those guys are healthy, they don't have to score a ton of points. So I'm with you with saying, I wish him well, but I don't see the upside for drafting Ben this year.
I just don't. And he could be good because he's been Roethlisberger. He's been a good quarterback over his career, but I'm just not going to draft him for fantasy this year. All right, number 19. So number 19 for us is Daniel Jones. So you put him at 20. I put him at 15. So the actual let's see here, consensus rank puts him at 14 for the year, and his ADP is 16. So
okay, here this is what we're gonna do. You have to sell me why, and I know he's still lower for you, but 15.
But so I have him ahead against your golden boy Tannehill.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. First of all, I'm furious immediately.
So
sell me that.
This
sell
is
Daniel Jones.
This to me. Okay, to me, this is the upside play. Daniel Jones is the upside play.
Okay.
And this is the upside of this is your QB2. This is the guy that maybe takes that next jump. And so Jones showed it some games last year. He had instances where he had the 5 touchdown game. He had 2 other 4 touchdown games. Yes. Other than that, he had the 5 touchdown, 2 4 touchdown games. He had 2 touchdown games, and then he had 7 1 touchdown games. I get it. I do get that. Yes. But there was those brief instances that maybe this guy can play. And that's all this is to me. This is a complete upside play where I'm banking on some potential. I'm banking on that he is going to improve and not saying this isn't like the league win. This is like maybe though a second-year quarterback takes that leap and he makes it worth your while to draft him as the second quarterback and maybe he jumps into the top 10. Possibly. The weapons are...
Did you say top 10?
It's possible. It's possible. The weapons are...
Yeah, tell me about the weapons.
Okay.
So the best running back...
This is the... Okay,
Or
obviously,
second best.
Saquon, amazing.
Yeah.
Evan Ingram's a solid tight end. I will say I'm never...
If he stays healthy.
He showed a lot that year one, and it hasn't quite lived up to it yet. The rest of them, Sterling Shepard, okay.
If he stays healthy.
Golden Tate, Darius Slayton, which all of them have... They're all good wide receivers.
Well, yeah, they're in the NFL. Of course, they're
good wide receivers.
It is
Hey, they got
strange,
Corey.
right?
They got Corey Coleman on the roster.
You don't have a true number one. I mean, this is what worries me.
They have a lot of number 3s.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe a number 2.
I don't hate any of them, but Sterling Shepard hasn't been able to stay healthy. If he does, I'm hoping we'll actually get to see what the guy's potential is. Golden Tate, end of his career. We both like him. He did a lot of good things for Detroit. He can catch the ball any way you want. He's a good wide receiver to have, but at this stage, I don't believe he's the difference maker. Darius Slayton, fast guy, got down the field, flashes. Are we excited? But you group all those together, and then you have a second year guy, and then you're kind of like, can he throw to Saquon every single time? Because I feel like that's what it would take in order to get him in the top 10.
I really think this, to me, it's the upside play, and he showed enough flashes last year that I think he could make that another jump. That's where it becomes.
I can't argue that he did show me a lot more than I thought he was going to. He has a lot he does have a lot of potential. I can't hate on that. I think I take more. The biggest slight is the fact that he's 15th. That means that Tannehill and a couple other guys that definitely have more upside are behind him.
Just remember what Tannehill did in the playoffs. 8 for 15.
You are so caught up on the playoffs.
It's terrible.
This guy didn't even make the playoffs.
Let me just hand the ball to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, here you go. Give it to Derrick Henry again. Let's just give the ball to Derrick Henry, to Derrick Henry, to Derrick Henry, Derrick Henry. That's what Tannehill can do. He's very good at handing the ball off.
He was the 5th quarterback from week 8
until
to 17.
it mattered, and then they realized we can't rely on Ryan Tannehill.
Those are the weeks that mattered for fantasy.
But then they realized that
We're
we
gonna have the
better
same argument.
way-
Is this what we're gonna do all
Okay,
night?
okay, all right. All right. Next up, number 20 for us is Kirk Cousins. So he's 20 for me, 19 for you. It's just he's Kirk Cousins. He's just what he is.
Once again, I like
He
Thielen.
will probably finish better than 20. I would, right?
Yeah, right.
Right. So,
But how likely is he to jump in the top 10? Is he worth drafting?
Back when he was playing with the Redskins, he had some seasons up there, right? You know, but with Minnesota, his 2 years with Minnesota, he's been beyond the top 10, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, 13 and 15 with Minnesota. And with Washington, he was 8, 5, and 6. And so they do have Kubiak now, and not Stefanski as the offensive coordinator. I don't know if it's really going to change that much. Kubiak's still going to run the ball. He doesn't have Diggs anymore. I mean, I think that helps Thielen. We like Thielen, but that doesn't mean it necessarily jumps Cousins' numbers, right?
Exactly.
And Justin Jefferson, hopefully Justin Jefferson's pretty solid. He's on the COVID list now, which not a great way to start, but obviously he'll hopefully be fine before the season. Like Irv Smith, Kyle Rudolph's Kyle Rudolph. He's not special. This about Cousins, he's just Cousins. He's just he could be a top 10,
Look,
no doubt, but top 10th. 10th, I feel like, is the limit for Cousins.
I also feel like 10th would be like a huge win. And at that point, you're kind of like, what did he do here?
But it's 10th is like the top end for Cousins, I feel like.
And look at this. I mean, in 2015 through 2019, this is where he finished as far as a QB, right? And I think by the end, I'll tell you why this matters. But, you know, he was 8th, 5th, 6th, 13th, and then 15th, right? So those years when he was in the top 10 were like great. But the last 2 years that I'm really looking at, he also had, you know, Stephon Diggs on top of Thielen or whatever it may be. And Thielen was hurt last year. You take it with a grain of salt. But they also had Delvin Cook those last couple of years. And they ran the ball a lot more. They had, you know, and especially last year, the way they played with Delvin Cook and him being so dominant, I can't imagine the recipe changing enough to catapult him back in the top 10.
Yeah.
I just don't think it'll happen.
That's what I'm saying. I think 10th is his limit. That's exact. Best case scenario, that's where he could finish, I think. So just he's a solid bye week fill-in. He's a very good bye week fill-in. I would feel
100%.
very comfortable with him as that. He's a good. He can be a solid.
He's a great streamer.
Yep, he can be a solid maybe second quarterback if you're in super flex who just will give you some reliable numbers, but that's about it. So all right, let's move over to number 21 for us, and that ended up being Jimmy Garoppolo, who was 22 for me and 23 for you. So we're actually, just the way the ranks work, you jump to 21. So Garoppolo consensus is 22 and ADP is 20. So I mean, we're slightly lower, not really. But so Garoppolo, I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. I think he's a very solid quarterback. He was efficient last year. He got his team to the Super Bowl. No knocks on him. It's just fantasy wise, we haven't seen that there's another level there. And that's just because of the way they're running the offense. And they have Mostert, they have Coleman. I mean, McKinnon is still around, Jeff Wilson even. They're going to run the ball. And they're very good at running the ball. So why wouldn't they do it? They have a good defense. They run the ball well. Garoppolo does well in what they ask him to do. And he is George Kittle, obviously. Amazing. One of the best tight ends. Could be the best tight end. You know, worst case, he's the number 2 tight end. But the rest of the guys are unproven after Kittle. I mean, Debo is hurt. Is he going to be healthy right away? And even if he is, we're banking on Debo to make a jump. And then it's Brandon Ayuk, who's probably their number 1 receiver right now. Is that with Debo hurt? Because after that, what do they have? Kendrick Bourne, Dante Pettis, who hasn't really done much. You know, Jalen Hurd. There's not a lot there. They're not going to ask Garoppolo to do a lot. He's just going to be solid. And again, he's a Cousins type. Like, he's just going to be solid. That's about it, right? Just solid.
Yeah, I think you hit on it. There's nothing wrong with Garoppolo at all. I like him as a quarterback, but that offense, you really have to look at how they're going to perform. And look, they ran the ball more than anyone else. They had the most rushing touchdowns than anyone else. Actually, maybe they didn't rush the ball. Anyway, they were in the top 5 for sure. I'll just say that. I'll be safe. But they did have the most rushing touchdowns last year. Obviously, that goes into possibly taking that away from Garoppolo. Like, they just obviously rushed the ball a shit ton. So, yeah, do I have any ill will towards the guy? No. But no, the system that he's in, he can win a lot of games by being just a very good quarterback. And you saw that he almost had a completion percentage of nearly 70% last year. That is very, very, very good. And heck, he went to the Super Bowl. So why would they change that formula up?
And they were second in the league in rushing attempts, second in yards.
Second.
I mean Baltimore.
Geez. Okay. First of all, that's a cheat. Yeah, it was 49ers.
I mean, Baltimore had 98 more carries than 49ers, and they had 1,000 more yards. I mean, Baltimore. I think that was the greatest rushing season of all time, right? I think. Yeah. I mean, actually, I think it really might have been. They were ridiculous. 49ers run the ball a lot. They're not going to change that up. Vikings were 4, so it's like a Cousins grapple. They're going to be similar. So go to the next one. So the next one, I do not know what to think about him, and it's Phillip Rivers. He came in 22 for us, 24 for me, 22 for you. So Rivers really wasn't good last year. I mean, he threw 20 picks. He didn't look great.
Yeah, the rest of his numbers don't look bad. That's the funny part.
The 4,600 yards are good. The 66 completion percentage is slightly lower than he was before, the year before, but better than he was, in most of the seasons before that or similar. It's moving to a new team at, how old is Rivers now? 38?
Yeah,
and going to a new team. It's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, and the new team, let's be honest, it is geared up to run. Their offensive line is full of just animals. They're awesome.
Yep.
And you have Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack, and name their wide receivers, right? I mean,
so you got Hilton, and what do you got?
Yeah. So I mean, you Hilton, you do, and you kind of
Paris
have
Campbell, Michael Pittman.
Yeah. So
there's
what I would call there is potential, but they're also young, and then I don't know if Paris Campbell is anything more than a gadget player at this moment, right? We haven't really seen enough. And T.Y. Hilton, as much as I like him, let's be honest, his whole thing is he can get down the field. He is very fast. He's a very good wide receiver. And yes, you saw Mike Williams last year. I mean, he pretty much topped out on everyone's yardage per reception list. Obviously, he didn't have as many as a lot of other people, but every time it was a bomb. But Phillip Rivers, the one thing I have noticed, and I think this is why he's starting to throw more interceptions, is I feel like his arm strength is starting to diminish. And once again, he's played a very long career. There's nothing wrong with that. The guy is, getting up near 40. But I do have serious doubts that T.Y. Hilton could be as successful in the offense if he can't throw the deep ball nearly as well. And then with all those other players, you're like, why wouldn't you just run the ball more?
Right.
So it comes down, I feel like a broken record, but it comes down to upside. And with Phillip Rivers in this offense, there's just not as much upside. So why would I pick him?
Yeah,
I hope he does well.
I see no scenario at all you'd be desperate in a bye week, right? You have to be pretty desperate though. So let's go to the next guy. It's going to be Drew Lock. You have Drew Lock at 21. I have him 26. Ends up being 23. So Lock, he showed some promise. He had one game where he had 309 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then he had 208 and 0. He had a 192 and 1, a 177 and 1. The team did go 4-1 in those 5 games he started. There was potential. You saw that maybe this guy can play, but there wasn't enough there yet. But if there's a guy that could make a leap, maybe it's Drew Lock, right? Maybe he is really good. He has good players to throw the ball to. So is Cortland Sutton. Obviously, they drafted, of course, Jerry Jeudy. They have Noah Fant. They have others.
Yeah, they also. Who was the other guy they drafted? Was it Penn State?
Hamler.
Yep, I was going to say Hamilton. Yep. And then you also have a good backfield too with
Gordon and Lindsey, and of course my guy Royce Freeman.
Yeah, don't forget about him. But yeah, he is one guy that I didn't jump him up just because I wanted to, but I do think that if you have to point at this list and say who will be who could be the biggest surprise of the year, it is this guy, because I love the weapons he has, and I really like what I saw last year. But as me and Craig usually do, is picking a young quarterback, unless he has some ridiculous, I don't know, whether he's Lamar Jackson and just a freak athlete that can do it all, or, Mahomes, which is just, kind of a once-in-a-generation type arm talent. It's very difficult. I think he's very good. I think he will be a good quarterback. 5 games, I'm just not willing to be draft him as a, QB2 and find out what happens. I think we need to see more.
Yep.
But, man, I think he's 1 year away from – and that's going to be the sad part. If he does break out, it'll be You won't be able to get him as cheap as you would. But man, Sutton and Jared Jeudy, I think, going to be something really special.
And then 24. Actually, it's a tie in 23. So this is 23 is a tie between Locke and Joe Burrow. So like you had Locke 21, I had Locke 26. I have Burrow 21. You have Burrow 26. So Burrow again. We don't know. He was really good at LSU, but it was a 1-year thing where he really just. He was solid the year before, but he really just. He was really, really good last year, and I believe he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. It's just you can't predict that in fantasy for year one. If AJ Green's healthy and Tyler Boyd's still playing well, and if T. Higgins could play at all, it could be pretty as a mix, and it could be very good. So
don't forget about John Ross if he stays
right,
healthy.
They got John Ross, but I have a feeling a rookie quarterback with the way this preseason is going to go is not going to be very beneficial for them. It's going to be a little different, and that's going to be the problem where I just can't rank a rookie that high because of it. I like Joe Burrow, and I think he can be really good. It's just this is a different. This year's different.
Yeah.
So.
And also, I just want to point out, it's just fun to look at his statistics because
they're insane.
Yeah, and first of all, he went to OSU as a very high recruit, and he didn't win the job. So he moved to LSU, and he was like, okay, well, we'll start there. And his first year, he looked, pretty good as a first-time starting quarterback for the most part. 2,900 yards, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and you're kind of like, okay, maybe that's why he didn't start at OSU. But his senior year, his numbers, everyone knows how good he was. Obviously, he won a title, and he was throwing to, Justin Jefferson, who is also in the NFL. So he is making NFL-type throws to an NFL-type wide receiver. And his numbers were, first of all, he threw 76% completion, which is crazy, almost 5,700 yards, and 60 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions.
That's insane.
What in the world? That's a video game.
That's insane.
It's a video game. And he did it against the highest end. Like, you watch him in the playoffs, going against OSU, going against, who else did he play? Was it Clemson?
I can't remember right now.
I can't either. It's been too long. Anyway, but going against those teams, my God. He put on a clinic. He was throwing in tight windows. It really did show me that Cincinnati made the right pick. Usually I'm kind of like, you have a lot of different pieces you have to build before you get that quarterback. But I think this one was correct. I think he will be a good quarterback. But to Craig's point, how much do you think success will he actually have in the first year? And have you ever seen any quarterback, even Peyton Manning?
Peyton Manning wasn't great.
No, he threw a ton of interceptions. Like, you're figuring it out. It would be the greatest,
remember
rookie performance.
Cam Newton, his first week was awesome in 2011. Remember that? First week he threw 400 yards.
Yeah. Well, I think Andrew Luck was pretty decent his first year too.
But they're not great fantasy quarterbacks year one. It's just not a thing. All right. So number 25 for us is going to be Gardner Minshew, who's 25 for both of us. Showed some promise last year. 21 touchdowns, 6 picks, 3,200 yards. Pretty solid numbers and only starting 12 games. End up playing in 14 of them. But he showed some promise. But it's still, Jacksonville is not very good. And it's hard to believe Jacksonville was almost into the Super Bowl just a couple of years ago. Like, what happened there? That's some mismanagement on that. That team was really good. They should have probably beat the Patriots that year and gone to the Super Bowl. And now look at them. So while Minshew has some potential, and he has DJ Chark he's throwing the ball to. I like Chark, but D.D. Westbrook is just, he's okay. Chris Conley's okay. Chenault, maybe he could do something. Keelan Cole, they have all these freaking names, all the same player.
Yeah, I was going to say, we had high hopes that one of them would break out many years ago, and no one did.
And, Minshew, maybe he could surprise us again, but I kind of feel like we've seen what Minshew can do already. I know it's really hard to say of a rookie.
Yeah, that's rough.
It is, but I'm not sure what his ceiling is. This doesn't feel like a franchise quarterback to me. And maybe I'd be glad to be wrong. I like Gardner Minshew. I'd be perfectly happy with being wrong. I just don't quite see that. They're going to give him a shot though to see if he can do that. But you got to think if they're terrible this year, and they have a draft pick near the top, and they can get number one. If they're that bad, they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence and not look back. So.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
So, but it's just for fantasy. I don't have a place for Minshew this year.
No, I don't either. I have the same feeling as you. The only thing that will help him is, like you said, DJ Chark was definitely a breakout year.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the other guys, come to play this year. We always had high hopes for like Westbrook and Cole. But also, last year with Minshew at the helm, Fournette had a surprisingly good receiving year. He caught 76 balls. I know that is wild. It was high of 36, 2 years before that.
Mm-hmm.
So it will help. They definitely made it passer friendly, obviously, throwing to the backfield more. I don't know. I'm rooting for him because I think this guy, to steal a phrase or a word from a good friend, I think he has moxie. I think he just shows the kind of a winning attitude. But I'm with you. With this team, with him, I don't know. What is his ceiling? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to be rooting for him more than I believe in him.
Yeah. I'm the same boat there. All right, 26 for us is going to be Sam Darnold. I put him 23. You have him 28.
This is just a depressing list at the end.
I mean, yeah, it gets ugly now. Sam Darnold, you know what? It's only year 3. Yes, he still can make a jump. And I don't think he's been overly bad.
No,
it's just
no.
They hoped he was a little better. Maybe Le'Veon Bell's Le'Veon Bell again. The wide receivers, while I like Perriman, I don't know if he is a 1. And Mims could be good, but we don't know yet. And you know what? Who's probably going to be the best receiver fantasy-wise on this team is probably going to be Jamison Crowder. It's probably what's going to happen. Those, and then Chris Herndon. There's some potential. These players aren't terrible, but they're just not what inspire a lot of confidence.
No,
Le'Veon Bell just needs to be Le'Veon Bell. That changes the story here.
It changes everything. And to New York Jet fans, I think the big one is I don't think he's a bad quarterback, but I do think that as far as fantasy goes, if he ended up with 4,000 yards and 23 touchdowns, that would be the huge jump that you're looking for. That would be amazing. And first of all, it wouldn't put him in a category where I'm glad that I grabbed him.
Fantasy-wise, it's just not going to play out really that well.
So that's what I mean by that. But I'm hoping he plays a full season. I'm hoping he throws it to Le'Veon Bell a lot because I'm expecting to get Le'Veon because everyone's overlooking him.
Yep. All right, number 27 is Teddy Bridgewater. 27 for me, 24 for you. He has good weapons, obviously, with McCaffrey. And I like DJ Moore, of course. And then he has Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, maybe. And Ian Thomas could be decent at tight end. We'll find out. But I don't really expect a lot from Bridgewater. It's going to be the Christian McCaffrey show, right? That's what this team is.
Yeah.
DJ Moore should put up numbers, but I don't think this is going to sustain a lot of guys. And Bridgewater, I think he can be a good quarterback to lead your team. It's just not a great, like he did with the Saints last year. He led them to 5 wins? I think 5-1 maybe last year.
5-0, I believe.
Was it? And then, but fantasy numbers. Okay, so he had 1 game of 4 touchdowns, and then he threw 5 other touchdowns on the rest of the games. That was it. So fantasy-wise, I just don't expect a lot. I think he'll be fine, though, for the team. Just not a guy I'm going to – he's very solid, though, I think, in some situations, like Superflex as a third, as a fill-in guy. That's a solid player, so nothing wrong there.
And you look at it, too. I think people, for whatever reason, they got a little excited. They're like, okay, he did pretty well in New Orleans. But even if you took his numbers and kind of, stretched them out to a full year, you're not looking at the touchdowns would have been pretty good, but because he had 9 touchdowns in 5 games. So you're kind of like, okay, you times it by 3. You're kind of, okay, he's in the mid-20s. That would be really good, right? Mm-hmm. He could do even better. He was only there for 5 games. You kind of start overhyping him. But he only had, almost 1,400 yards. And once again, this is a much better team than the Panthers are.
Yep.
You had Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, and you have McCaffrey and everything. That's great. But, are you really going to that better of a situation? I don't think so. So it's a lot of dinks, it's a lot of dumps, and it is going to be the McCaffrey show, like you said.
Yep. All right, number 28 is Derek Carr. 28 for me, 29 for you.
I don't even know what to say. I feel bad. I feel like for Derek Carr, I feel like I just forget about him.
He should be better than this, but he threw 4,000 yards, just doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns, and I just don't see it happening.
Isn't that funny, though? Yeah. Because we just put Darnold, we just put Minshew, we just put all of these guys. These are similar, if not better stats than those guys had. And he's still a young guy. Oh, my God, I guess he's not as young as I thought. I don't know why I thought it was like 4th year. So it's going to be, 7th year into the league? But they also did put, they put some draft capital into more wide receivers. They tried to get him Antonio Brown last year. That did not work out. So you do have Ruggs, which I don't think is going to be like a number 1, but it does give you a little more dimension on that offense. You have Josh Jacobs. They definitely invested in, and you have Waller. So you do have a few pieces. I don't know why, and he threw for completion percentage of 70%,
So
4,000 yards. It's kind of funny. Like I look at him, like why do I discount him so much?
This is funny. So that 70% completion percentage was I'm just going to throw out a Hall of Fame player here, Troy Aikman. Better than Troy Aikman ever had in a season. His yardage last year of 4,054 were more than Troy Aikman ever had in a season by 700 or by 600, and his 21 touchdowns would have been Troy Aikman's second best touchdown season ever. Troy Aikman's top was 23.
Isn't that funny how
and Troy Aikman's a Hall of Famer.
Isn't it funny though how different the
NFL
quarterback position is now?
Yeah, Troy Aikman's a Hall of Famer. His best season was a 69 completion percentage. His best season was 3,400 yards, and he had 3,400 yards and 23 touchdowns.
Yeah,
and he's a Hall of Famer. He let his team to some Super Bowls, obviously. I get it, but I mean, that season, holy crap. That 1992 season, I just love looking at this. 1992. So 3,400 yards, 23 touchdowns, fourth best quarterback in the league, fantasy-wise. And Derek Carr throws for 4,021, and we don't even care.
No. And
NFL's different.
The big one is he had 1 year, his third year, we thought he was kind of breaking out. He made it to QB number 9. But the other 5 years has been kind of the same thing. It's 20th, 15th, 19th, 18th, 16th. So I think that is why, even though he's not a terrible quarterback, he just, once again, there's no upside for me.
So next up, Tyrod, 29th, I had him 32nd, you had him 27th. He could lose the job to Justin Herbert. We don't know.
Well, that's the big one. I was going to say, did he slip on yours because of that?
Okay. He could lose the job. So, even if he doesn't, I'm just, he worked out, I think, did we pick him in the Scott Fish Bowl? I can't remember. Did we end up picking him?
Yeah.
So
we picked him as our third
but that was because of the guy's not going to get throw picks.
No, and both of our other buys come in the first 6 weeks. We know that he'll probably
he's not going to throw many picks. He's not going to take many chances. No. It's just what.
And he runs around a bit. I mean, he does have upside, but in a very particular situation, which is ours is streaming and don't throw a pick.
30th is Haskins. He didn't show me much last year. I need to see something, and that's it. I need to see something from him. I didn't see anything. 31 is Fitzpatrick, and this is the difference. If it wasn't for Tua, Fitzpatrick jumps.
Huge.
That's the whole key here. Is it's Tua.
Here's a good question. First half of the year, where do you rank Fitzpatrick? How far up would he go?
I mean, I feel like he has to be 20, at least 20, 15 to 20 range. Right?
For me, he goes much higher than that.
So I mean, I'd put him. I'm sure he's in my 15 to 20 range if he's starting.
Okay, yeah, because if I had to pick, if I knew that he was going to start the entire year, he makes it at least to 15 for me.
Right, yeah. He was way up there. Like, he was like quarterback 3 over the last half of the last season or something ridiculous. Fitzpatrick he's done this with how many teams now? He just puts up numbers. So this is going to be really key to see how Tua, what's going on with Tua, right? That's going to be the key to everything. And we're just not going to know, right? So Fitzpatrick falls to 31 for us.
From oh my gosh, that's hilarious. And a little of this is because how many games they played. But can you name from week, and I just picked a random one when he was the starter I knew of, but week 7 to week 17. So we'll say the last half of the year. But what would you guess he would rank as QB?
He's top 5, isn't he?
He is top 5.
Yeah, right?
He's number 2. The only person that beat him was Lamar.
That's crazy.
And once he played 2 more games than Lamar, and that shows you how good Lamar is. But it was that's funny. It was Lamar, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Ryan Tannehill, Jameis Winston, and then you got to Dak, Josh Allen, Drew Brees. That is hilarious. And 2 of those guys are out of a job, and Ryan Tannehill still no one believes in. It's really funny.
It's all going to depend on what they if they play him or not. If they go to. So all right, and then 32 is Foles for us. So we're both banking on Foles to beat out Trubisky. Trubisky ends up 33 for us.
Go Bears.
So who knows? Who knows? I don't know, but don't draft him. But all right, that does it for quarterbacks. I feel like we had more to talk about with our second half of the list than we did the first half.
But also, I feel like we skimmed over Foles, and anyone in Chicago is losing their mind right now. They're like, hey, he's going to save our team.
No, he's not. Okay, hey, Chicago, your quarterbacks suck really badly, both of them. You drafted Mitch Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes. Just remember that in Yeah, you root for a terrible team.
Yeah. Also, I don't understand.
I do too. I'm a Lions fan. It's
Yeah,
even worse.
yeah,
But,
we are worse.
Not saying anything about mine. You're terrible.
Can we talk about this? So I don't understand and I know that Foles had that amazing run with the Eagles, and Eagles were a phenomenal team at the time. But I don't understand if you cannot take one snapshot right there, and then you've seen him start for multiple other teams. Mm-hmm. I don't understand the thinking that he will turn a franchise around. And maybe Trubisky really is just that bad.
I mean, me personally,
but it feels weird.
I would rather just give Trubisky another shot. I don't think. I mean, even if Foles is better, Foles isn't going to lead. Okay, he's going to lead you. I say he won a Super Bowl. I get that. But I believe if Foles had been that quarterback that whole season, I don't know if they get there. Wentz was so good that year.
Oh, he was a potential MVP.
Yeah. So, I mean, Foles came in. That team was great. The offensive line was great. Right. Everything about it was great. Chicago's not that.
No.
And Foles can be very good when he has a good team around him. He's shown in Philadelphia before that, he had that 27 touchdowns, 2 picks, right?
Yep.
So he was very efficient, very good. I just don't believe in this Chicago team that way because I don't believe in a lot of the pieces. I like Allen Robinson, kind of maybe like Anthony Miller, but I don't know how much. Not really. And I don't like David Montgomery. So
actually, I'm looking at this too. He's never been able to play a full season.
Because then he went to St. Louis after, right? He went to St. Louis after, and he didn't do anything there. Where else? Did he go to the Chiefs? I can't remember.
He's been in Philly, St. Louis, the Chiefs,
and then he went back to Philly.
And then Jacksonville.
Yeah. So all right.
So I think he's a very likable guy. I think he's a great backup.
He's a bottom of the QBs. Yes, that's where he's at.
And the touchdowns is always that wild. That Philly one, that 27-2, it was almost 2,900 yards in 10 games started.
It's an efficient year.
Yeah, it is. It's very efficient and it's very good. But everywhere else, you're kind of like he's never had. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just never returned. I don't know.
I might take another shot on Trubisky. I would have if I'm the Bears to see maybe there's something. But
well, you definitely spent enough on him.
You drafted him over Mahomes.
Yeah, I bought a Kia for a Ferrari price.
Pretty much. But all right, that will do it for today. We'll be back next week when we go over our running back ranks. Talk to you guys then.